Welcome back everybody to the channel. Welcome to a new video. You guys haven't seen me in a few weeks, and that had a reason because I was enjoying my Christmas and New Year on two beautiful islands here in Mexico. There was barely any Wi-Fi, so I was completely disconnected from the rest of the world. Very nice, very relaxing. I can recommend it everyone. I also took some extra days off. Started working again last week, and I was mainly busy with trading. I made also like 5 or 6 trading videos which I upload on the other channel. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, then definitely check that out. We look at cryptocurrencies and the charts on a daily basis, and I try to upload their videos every day. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check it out. Try to put a link somewhere here in the description, or check out the main page of this channel where there will also be a link to the other channel. Now, when I was on the islands, I was thinking about new ideas for 2022 and all kinds of videos that I wanted to make, and then suddenly I was thinking, well, since I'm traveling so much most of the year and already for years in a row, I gained so much experience. Wouldn't it be cool to try to make a short list about all the tips and the tricks that I have for you so that you can travel as cheap as possible? Well, when I was writing all my ideas down, it became quite a list. So yeah, let's try to dive in as soon as possible. First, an important notice is that I am going to name a handful of names and brands. None of this is sponsored. I'm not getting money from anyone. This is purely my experience, all my ideas. So nothing is sponsored or paid. Now, before we really dive in, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, click on the bell, click on all so you don't miss anything, leave me a comment or share this video with your friends if you think this is useful. Now, really, let's get started with all those tips and tricks. And the first one that I want to mention is the flight tickets, because most of the time when you go on a holiday, you're going to use a plane. And when you are looking for flight tickets, I would recommend you to use compare websites. So websites that really compare all kinds of airlines and flight tickets with each other, so you right away could see the times, the prices, the add-ons, etc. The websites that I'm using is Skyscanner, and the other one is Kayak. I don't know. Anyways, this is how you write it. Check it out. It works pretty good. Usually, after I picked out one of the airlines or the flight tickets, I also just surf separately to the website of the airline, because in most cases those websites that compare all the airlines and the flight tickets are the cheapest. But in some cases you see that the flight itself, if you just surf directly to the website of the airline, is even a little bit cheaper. So if you really want to squeeze out the last few dollars or euros, definitely also check out the website of that airline. And a lot of people think that if you book last minute that your ticket is much cheaper. Well, that is in most of the cases not true. And the reason for that is that because airlines work with algorithms, and those algorithms work with scarcity. So when the plane is filling up and there are just less and less seats, then the seats that are available will become more scarce, and therefore the price goes up. It's just everything goes automatic on that algorithm. So please don't always wait until the last day, 2-3 days. Just try to book usually as much as you can beforehand, like weeks or months before you really go. Then most of the time the price is then much cheaper than when you're trying to book a ticket 1 or 2 days before. And when you're booking anyways, always check the luggage. Is luggage included? Sometimes when these really cheap airlines, they do not include the luggage, and you think, oh my god, this flight is so cheap, only $100. And then once you are going through the process of adding the ticket and really buying it, you need to pay for your luggage, all kinds of insurance and all kind of stuff. So really be careful. And the second thing is that most of these airlines also trying to offer you to reserve a seat, like you need to pay extra for your seat. Never do that. Once you have the ticket, you have your ticket. And then once you can really check in on the airport itself, or sometimes online 1 or 2 days before, then you can pick out a seat. But if they want to sell you a seat, they're just trying to upsell you something which is actually just useless, because you're already buying the ticket and that is your access to the airplane. And once you're there flying anyways, once you're really at the airport, my recommendation is never buy food on the airport. It always disappoints, and it's always just very sad. Sometimes you have like a tiny baguette with 1 slice of cheese or 1 slice of ham. You pay like $10, the coffee is bad. I don't know, somehow the drinks and the food on the airport are always just very disappointing and very expensive. And then your accommodation, well, a long time ago you went to your agent to book something. Nowadays we have something called Airbnb, and you can pick pretty much from any city and town in the world something on Airbnb. My experience is it works very well, but Airbnb is a little bit pricey because Airbnb takes a cut of 17% out of the monthly cost. So let's say you want to rent a house that is $1,000 a month on Airbnb, then they're taking 17% for their cut, so that's $170, and the rest is then actually from really the owner or the host that rents out the apartment. And that this is a great business model will also shown in their numbers, because the revenue of the third quarter of 2021 was $2.2 billion. And with a net income of $834 million, this was their best quarter ever, and it was 4 times better than the same quarter a year ago. Come on, Airbnb, you make enough money. Lower those fees a little bit. Come on. And you probably also heard from the next big website, and that is Booking.com. Now, where Airbnb is quite transparent when it comes down to their fee, which is 3% for the host and 14% for the one who books it, Booking stays a little bit less transparent. They say our average fee all over the globe is 15%, but which country pays a higher fee or a lower fee in every booking, they stay unclear about that. And that also Booking is making a lot of money on this is also shown in their numbers, because they had a revenue in the third quarter of 2021 for $4.7 billion. And their EBITDA, which is earnings before interest and taxes, depreciation and amortization, is $2.1 billion, giving them a net income of $769 million. Now, if you want to try to avoid those fees, you can of course try to book it through an agent, but also that agent will ask a fee for their services. I once read a story about a girl who used Booking to book certain accommodations, and then after she booked it, canceled it, called up the hotel and said, hey, I just canceled your booking, this is my data, can you do something with the price? Now, of course, I do not recommend you this, but it is something that I read. It is a strategy that you can use. I think it's a bit of a hustle because you don't really know how much the hotel can take off their price, but hey, it is a way maybe to save a little bit of money. Booking here last minute doesn't always give you an advantage, because most of the hotels and the places, they don't really use an algorithm. And if you already booked your ticket and you really want to stay in a place, and let's say you try to book last minute, then there might be a chance that they're full and that you don't have a spot. And once you're then at your location and you don't have a place to sleep, that can be a bit of a bummer. And if you want to book in, let's say, a big hotel chain, then the chances of them using the algorithm, just like with the airplanes, that they are working with scarcity, and the later you book and less rooms are available, the price is going up, that chance is higher. So when it comes down to hotels and places, also here, my recommendation is try to book it as soon as possible, that you can lock in those cheap prices. Now, there is maybe one way if you want to book a cheap place at the last moment to do so, and that is through a middleman. Now, how does that exactly work? Well, the middleman, he already buys all the rooms or the hotels or whatever for a certain date. And once that date is coming closer by, then you will see that the prices in the hotels and the Airbnbs, they are going up. But that agent, that middleman, he already booked that place. He already has his price locked. And let's say it was 6 months ago, $1,000 to stay somewhere in December. Then once you are at November, the place is maybe $2,000, and you see that on the website of that hotel. Hey, the room is $2,000, but that agent might be offering it for $1,500, and then you might be asking, hey, how is that possible that someone else than the owner offers it for much cheaper? Well, that is because they already booked that place so long a time ago for $1,000. Now, for them, of course, it's the risk not to be able to resell those apartments or those hotel rooms anymore, and then of course they have an empty place where they have paid for it. Now, you could try to use this strategy. Personally, I would not recommend it. It gives me the creeps that if my plane lands somewhere and I still don't have a hotel, or a few days before I leave I have absolutely no idea where I'm staying, and the chances of me are that I maybe need to sleep on the street for a day, it's just not for me. So also here, my recommendation will be save yourself the hustle. Just book right away when you book your flight ticket, as early as possible, lock in those prices, and you're done with the entire hustle. Cheap food and drinks, very easy. Just try to avoid major streets, strips, squares and city centers. That are the places where usually prices are pretty high compared to other places. And just be careful, because if you dine at one of those places, you don't want to end up like these students who paid more than $1,000. Unless you maybe go to a Noosa restaurants, order a gold steak for $1,000. And if you're looking online, of course you can use TripAdvisor. There is the icon of the budget where you can just click on one icon in dollars or euros, and then show you all the cheap options that there are in the region. Now that does not always work, because I also found very cheap restaurants that were actually in the mid-range of TripAdvisor, but where I really paid $4, $5, $6 a meal, which I find very, very cheap. So it works, but don't always count on it 100%. And another great thing that works very well for me is to type the location where you are and then just write down best restaurants or best breakfast. And then usually you find blogs from that area from a certain person who made a top 10 or top 15 from their best breakfast places or their cheapest places where they've been to, or the best dinner places. This usually works for me very, very well. And another tip, of course, that you can use is just don't go out all the time. If you feel like, hey, if I want to go to a restaurant, I always pay a little bit more, then just eat at home, or just try to make yourself somehow a cheap meal. Then transportation, when it comes down to taxis and all that kind of stuff, same advice as for the food. Stay away from those squares, major strips and city centers, because the taxi drivers are asking a lot of money. Why? Because they can. If you're not taking the ride, there will be someone else. Those are places where a lot of people come together. So they're just waiting until someone accepts a high price. Better is to just walk off a few streets and then try to hail a taxi to go to your location. And also here, what helps for me, Google first. Trust me people, Google is your best friend in most of the cases. Because a lot of times when it comes down to transportation, someone has already been there. Someone already wrote a story about which bus you need to take, which train you need to take, where you need to buy those tickets, where you shouldn't buy those tickets because someone's trying to rip you off. Trust me, Google everything first. It works so simple, so well, and it takes you 2 minutes. And some of the stuff that you can look for are BlaBlaCar, post a message in the Facebook group, try to get an Uber or a Gojek. Most of these apps, they work very, very well, and it's super cheap. Then saving points for flights or hotels. Well, you can do that through Amex. I am using an Amex card for my company. I have a bit of an expensive one. This is a business gold card. And what Amex does is that every time you pay something with your credit card, you are saving point. For me, every dollar, every euro is then 1 point. And then after a while, you have saved a lot of points, and then you can just book your flight for free or get a discount on your favorite hotel. Now I have to warn you, because sometimes the cards are a little bit expensive. You can easily pay up to $100 or $200 per year for a card. For me, it's on the business, so it's not such of a problem. And another thing is that the app, in this case for Amex, doesn't work so well. The customer service is actually really, really good. The app, not so happy about it. And another thing is that you need quite a lot of points before you have a very nice flight ticket or discount on your hotel. You need to spend tens of thousands of dollars or euros before you really can buy a ticket from, let's say, one side from the States to another, or to Europe, or from the States to Europe. So you need to spend quite a lot of money. But let's do crazy. You purchase everything during the month on your Amex card the entire year long. Well, then of course it adds up quite a lot. This next one is major on the list, and really take this advice. This is maybe even the most important one when it comes down to budget, and that is travel off season. That will save you so much money. Let me give you an example. When I just arrived here in Mexico, I first went to Playa del Carmen. I had a very nice apartment for a decent price. Then I left Playa del Carmen, went to an island for a while, and then when I came back, I looked up the same apartment, and I was right kind of at the edge when the high season started. So then the same apartment just a few weeks later was suddenly 50% more expensive than when I booked it. And right now it is almost 100% more expensive than when I booked it. And there are just a few months in between. And that actually goes for so many places where the prices for hotels, Airbnbs or whatever, they just skyrocket during high season. So really try to travel off season. Another one that I try to avoid as much as possible is guided tours. Usually these tours are quite expensive, and most of the information that you are getting, you can just find it online or just trying to read 1 or 2 articles, or it's actually not that interesting. So if you are wanting to do a trip or a hike or whatever, then actually you can just do it on your own. Avoid guided tours. And watch out with money exchanges, because they are making money by giving you a certain rate and the difference then to the real rate at that moment. So just try to avoid them as much as possible. Just walk to the ATM, and once you're there, also watch out for those fees, because some of the banks are offering you a $20 fee or a $50 fee, or sometimes 20% of the total amount that you want to take out. Whatever they're offering right there at the screen, just decline it and say most current rate, and that's then the best rate sometimes what you get. Also here, try to Google first the location where you are, the banks, and the fee that they're giving. It really costs you 2 minutes, and it will save you a lot of hassle and of course also a lot of money. And the next one is a little bit sensitive, and that is to try to negotiate, but don't be cheap. Because in some places in the world it is normal to negotiate about the price, and they are just offering you something or trying to see how high they can go to see whenever you take the bite. So if you don't negotiate with them, you're kind of setting the bar for the next customer to just take the price. But at the same time, I'm saying please don't try to be cheap, because if you are going to certain countries that, let's say, are very poor and someone is offering you something for $3, then don't try to get it for 50 cents or $1. You know, if you want to negotiate a little bit because that is custom, that's what the seller is expecting, try to get off a little bit. Just don't try to be cheap, because also these people need to make a living. Now this is a little bit sensitive, because sometimes you just don't know what a fair price is in a certain region of a certain product in the country. So actually here it just really comes down to experience. The next one on the list will be trying to get recommendations from the locals, because who else knows better places to go for food, for drinks, for tours, as must-haves, must-sees than the locals themselves. I always like this part because I like to connect, I like to grow, I like to learn, and how else can you do that better than do that with the locals? And last but not least, I wanted to give you one more tip, and that is your travel goal in line with your budget? Because do you maybe want to travel as long as possible on a small budget, or maybe short and you don't mind spending a little bit more money? Because if you stay out for a long time but you can't do what you really love, and you can't experience and see all those things that you wanted to do because they cost money, did you really then enjoy your trip? Try to get your finances and your travel goal a little bit in balance. Some people like to spend a little bit more money on their accommodations and like to go for cheap food. But if you spend, let's say, $200 a month extra on an accommodation, $200 can be quite a lot of meals on the street somewhere in India or in Bangkok. So try to get your travel goals a little bit in balance with your finances. That was it again for today's video. If you think all of these tips are useful, then show your appreciation by hitting up that like button, subscribe, leave me a comment, or share this video with someone else so we can spread the knowledge. And I'd like to thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.